Thank you. All right, let's just start this thing off with introduction of me. I'm a grade 10 student studying at Seco Secondary, and I'm currently working on this project of identifying the impact makers in our community. So I chose you as the impact maker because I think that you're a very successful entrepreneur and you made a difference in the diving industry. And I just have some questions in mind that I want to ask you. So you're Phil Newton, founder of Newtco, and is known for creating the Newt suit, right? So how did you invent the Newt suit? What inspired you to make a hard diving suit with rotary joints?
Well, the problem of diving, period, is the exposure to pressure. So you're just a very soft ball of nothing, and the water pressure is squishing you, and you have to be very careful how long you stay down when you're diving, and how long it takes you to come up, and if you have been going too deep, or any of those things. So it makes diving seem like not a very good thing to do because it can literally kill you. So and it's the problem. The problem again is about the pressure. Pressure when you take a big breath of air and go down and sit on the bottom for a while with scuba gear and whatnot. You have to be very careful how long you stay and how deep you go. So I first thought about all of this way, way, way back when I was a little kid. And my parents had a place right across from Lost Lagoon in Stanley Park. And my dad was a machinist, and this was around the middle of the Second World War. So he was building things down off Georgia Street, very close, and doing all of this work. My mother and father owned a restaurant also. And so my mother would send me down every lunch hour with his lunch in my basket. And I loved to go because I could drop his lunch off with him and then run out to the end of these piers that floated there. And they were held by big, wooden dowels that go through them, pilings that go through this floating thing that you tie your boats up at. And so I would go down there, and over time, I got to where I really got so interested in what was going on underwater. So I could look down these pilings, and if the water was clear, I could see the starfish climbing up. I could see the sea anemones, absolutely beautiful, and these schools of fish moving around, and I could see the bottom. And I thought, gosh, wouldn't it be something? Wouldn't it be incredible to be able to go to the bottom of the ocean or the sea someplace and see all of the different things that I've never seen and most people never get to see. So I thought, well, what I need is to find out more about this diving business. So there was a book that was published by a German, a young German diver and whatnot. And it was called Diving to Adventure. And oh boy, this is something. And so I got kind of mixed in between because I spent every Saturday at the time. I was a voracious reader. I still am. But at the time, I spent every Saturday instead of playing around in the park and doing that, although I did that somewhat. But as soon as I was released from breakfast on Saturday, I'd roar off to the Hudson's Bay Company. And there was a very nice lady there who was in charge of the books. And so I would roar up there and I wanted to be able to read new books as they came in, see what they're about, what are they doing. So she said to me, I don't mind you doing this, except I want to make sure that your hands are clean. Otherwise, you get the book dirty and we can't sell it to anybody. And so she says, so when you come in here, go immediately to the men's room, wash your hands, dry them, come back out and show me that they're clean, and then you can read. And so I did. So I'd rush in there and wash my hands, come back out, show her they're clean, go read my book. And got to the point where she put a stool up in the corner so I could sit on the stool and read to my heart's content. So this book that I mentioned, where this guy was building his own equipment, a young guy, building his own diving equipment, the first thing that was in order was a mask of some sort to be able to see underwater. So I tried everything from mason jars, cleared glass jars, to where I stick those partway in the water and then look down in them till I could see even further. And so I decided that I was going to sneak my dad. My dad had a huge, because of what he did for a living, there was a huge assortment of tools in our basement. And so I thought, right, he does that welding. So I seem to see I seem to remember that he has glasses for welding. So I got these welding glasses, and then one block up from where we lived was an automobile place where they did upholstery and things like putting clear plastics in the car. So I would, in their bin, that's where they throw stuff out, I scurried up there with a pair of scissors and whatnot, and would save some of this clear plastic, ran it back, took the eye pieces out for my dad's welding gear, and stuck these clear pieces of plastic in and used tape to hold them there. And then next day I rushed down again to the pilings there where I could get my head. I was always very careful. Boy, if a boat bumps up on my head between those two poles, that could be the end of me. But I could see really well. So spent a lot of time in those goggles. And my dad, surprisingly enough, was not too mad. He said, you're wrecking my stuff, but I'm glad to see that you're, doing things rather than just playing around. You're actually trying to do something. And I said, yeah, but what I would like to have is I'd like to have a pair of flippers. This book I'm reading, it shows them what's going on in Florida. They're using flippers and they're swimming like fish. And I said, I went down to a couple of local stores here to see if they had them, sporting goods stores. And they said, no, they haven't come in yet from the States. So I said, I guess I'd like to make a pair. And so without going any further, I took the saw blades from some of my dad's old saws, what is used for sawing wood. And you could unscrew the handle and take the handle off, and you're left with this saw blade, but it had all these sharp teeth on it. Well, that's all I need, to get in the water with these sharp teeth, and one leg hits the other, and I'm cooked. So what am I going to do about that? So I said, first of all, my old man's going to be mad because I took his saws, I think, but I'll try not to hurt them. And so I went out in the backyard, and there was the water hose, for watering flowers. So I got my trusty pliers, which you could use as cutters, and I cut myself a piece of this hose, and then used a sharp knife to to slit it, and I could put it over the rough teeth, and then use my dad's jaws as tape again to wrap around it. And then I had a pair of old running shoes, but I could put a running shoe on top of it, use the tape again, tie it up, and I had made these flippers, and they really worked well. And so it just went on and on from there. And I joined the diving club in Vancouver, and it was called the Vancouver Skin Divers. And which skin divers at that time meant that you don't use any kind of scuba gear or any kind of air, just a mask, a snorkel, and a spear of some sort to spear fish. So the Vancouver Skin Divers, I found out about them, I heard about them, and tried to see if I could get in on the deal. And I was quite a bit younger than even the youngest person there, but they saw that I was really, really interested. And so I joined the Vancouver Skin Divers Club, and every end of every week, I would drive out with them. I didn't drive, but they'd drive out with some of the guys. Most of the guys in that club were probably 10 years or 15 years older than me, but they treated me very well. And I watched how they did everything they did, and I scrabbled back and forth to get the equipment. And so I'll skip a whole bunch of, this goes on forever, but I decided that I wanted to be somehow in the diving business. So how am I going to do that? So I was in grade, grade 7. I was 12 or 13 years old, and I decided that I was going to open a diving shop, a shop to sell diving equipment and to train divers. And I went to Kitsilano High School, and I decided that I would see what I could do about finding a store somewhere that I could move into. And so I found one on in Kitsilano on 4th Avenue. And it was a store that was closing up. And so I went to, my mother and father were very business people. They, they had this restaurant together, and my dad, of course, was with Boeing aircraft. So they, instead of saying, no, you're an idiot, you can't do this, they helped. And so when I got the store, when I was able to scrounge up enough dollars over little bits of diving that I'd done, like somebody would lose their outboard motor off their boat. So I was roaring down there, dive down, tie a line onto it, come up, and then charge them for that. Not much, $4 or $5, but it happened a lot. So I had quite a little bag of bills. And when I found out that the small store that was closing down, and the owners were letting it go, I said, well, how much would it cost to rent it if I just lease it? Can I lease it from you? And the guy said, yeah, you can do that. So I leased the store for a period, and I still was too young to actually get a business license. So my mom got a license for me because I was too young to get it. And she got a license for me, and I set up the first dive shop in British Columbia. It was called Vancouver Divers and Vancouver Divers Supply. And I had a wonderful time, absolutely a wonderful time. My girlfriend, I showed her how to make suits, diving suits. And so she spent a lot of time down in the shop making diving suits with me. And then I would split when they were sold, I'd split it with her. And so I've been diving since I was 13 years old. I'm embarrassed to tell you how old I am now, but it's a long, long time ago. And I've set up some 6 different diving companies, some big, some small, some of them enormous. One that we set up in the States, myself and a friend of mine in California called Ladd Hamelin. We set up a company called Oceaneering International, which kind of sounded very egotistical, but we did a lot of diving in where he lived in California. And we set up this company to go and make money diving as contract divers, go and work on the oil rigs, work on pipelines, anything underwater. That was our sort of motto. And so I never looked back. But I decided that there's a lot of people being hurt, in some cases being killed for being divers because of the effects of pressure on them, the outside water pressure when you're down some degree of water. And if they didn't know that or weren't trained or simply did it because it's something they wanted to do but didn't know that this could be very dangerous if they went too deep. And so I thought the thing to do is figure out some way to be able to go down to the bottom of the ocean. It doesn't have to be very deep, 30 feet, 50 feet, but